Welcome to another week, another show of Hawkeye with me, Dave O'Hara. You see our buddy John Steppe from the Gazette. I'll get to John in just a second. I want to lay out today's show for you before that. John Steppe, of course, will join us talking Hawkeye football, and then we'll have Sean Bock talking Hawkeye men's basketball. We talked last week. Michael Merrick and I, my production partner, he was on this side of the camera, also as a commentator for Big Ten Plus Network. We talked Iowa Hawkeye women's basketball, Iowa Hawkeye women's wrestling. We talked Iowa women's field hockey and soccer. And a great season to soccer. They lost a tough match 3-2, so the Iowa women, their run in the NCAA national tournament for soccer is done, but a great season. So that being said, it's our buddy John Steppe. John from the Gazette, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing great, thank you. It's John's birthday today, again, as we record this on November 20th. So thanks for joining us on your birthday. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you.
And you're welcome. And John, you're getting ready for Thanksgiving. We're recording this show a little earlier than we normally do because folks will be seeing this show on television on Wednesday, in some markets, and then on Friday as well, and then, of course, online after Thanksgiving. So all this, again, remember, this is on Monday, November 20th. So let's, first of all, talk about last Saturday's game. Big victory, senior day, Hawkeyes 15-13. Yes, the under was met again, 28 total. Interesting to see how the Illinois game with Iowa, Bielema, former player and coach at Iowa, comes back, coaches against Kirk Ferentz. They all know each other's trade secrets. Brian Ferentz had a very nice going-away party on the sideline. He will not be coaching at Krikke at the end of this year, so we know he's done. So as a player, as a coach, 15 years on that sideline, what an end to that story, that saga. And you saw another emotional Kirk Ferentz. Phil Parker was emotional because Kirk Ferentz passed Bo Schembechler, number 3 on the all-time Big Ten wins list behind Woody Hayes now is his next, and I believe Alonzo Stagg is on that list as well. So Kirk's doing historical things. The team is doing historical things, John. 9-2. Oh, by the way, 6-2 in the Big Ten, in the West leading, and they're going to the Big Ten championship game. We don't know if that's going to be against either Ohio State or Michigan. We'll find that out this upcoming Saturday. I've laid a lot out for you, so fill in some blanks for us, please.
Yeah, it was a special moment at Krikke. You look at it, Big Ten division titles don't happen every day. Granted, they've happened 2 of the last 3 years for Iowa, and almost 3 out of 3.
Shoulda, coulda, woulda last year, so
yeah,
little extra motivation.
Yeah, it's a unique moment. I think it was a special moment to do it at Krikke as well. So you saw that. You saw, as you mentioned, Brian Ferentz's final game as Iowa offensive coordinator at Krikke Stadium. Of course, he does still have the Nebraska game, the Big Ten championship game, and the bowl game. So you saw him quite emotional as he had his Krikke swan song. And most importantly, it was a win. And they improved to 9-2, 6-2 in conference. That wasn't necessarily the most beautiful. You might not frame it and put it in the Louvre, but it really was a quality, kind of grinded out kind of game once again. And Deacon Hill showed some improvement and really was good enough for Iowa to win in other facets. And I think that's really what stood out to me. There were times where really you saw a difference compared to a few weeks ago, where before, okay, teams could not really respect the play action because they knew that there wasn't a passing threat. Well, you think back to that 31-yard reception to Caleb Brown in the first quarter, and they didn't respect the play action, and Deacon Hill was able to burn them.
Yeah.
And that's just one little example, obviously, but you're seeing some things turn for this offense, granted against Big Ten West competition, but still, you're starting to see some progress here and some encouraging signs for this team going into the kind of later part of November. And now with the Big Ten West clinched, they're in a good spot. They'll obviously be in Indy no matter what happens on Friday, and bowl situation, which we can talk about later too, that pretty much doesn't change with this Friday game. So it's one of those times where they actually go into that last game against Nebraska without necessarily a ton at stake compared to past years, aside from, of course, the Heroes Trophy.
So the other question I have for you then is, what type of bowl perspective will there be for the Hawks? I know there's a couple of different options that have been already put out there. We don't know opponents yet because that can all change. But where do you think, let's say top list of 3, where we're going here potentially for the Hawks?
There are 3 really realistic possibilities, I would say. The most likely one is the Citrus Bowl. That's going to be the top bowl for a Big Ten team outside of the prestigious New Year's Six bowls.
Another Florida Bowl, another going south
one
and
that
east.
they were just at 2 years ago.
Very prestigious.
So that would probably be the most likely scenario. If that doesn't happen, the next one on the pecking order would be the ReliaQuest Bowl, which probably most people are going to be more recognizing it by its former name of the Outback Bowl.
Yeah.
The issue with that one is if a Big Ten team goes to the Orange Bowl, which there's a pretty good chance of that happening, that bowl goes over to the SEC. So that one is a less likely possibility.
Okay.
So if Citrus goes to somebody else, like say a Penn State, if Penn State falls out of New Year's Six contention, if the ReliaQuest Bowl goes to the SEC, then the possibility would be the Las Vegas Bowl, which would be an interesting one. It'd be a before Christmas bowl game.
Yeah.
You don't really see too many of those, but that would be probably the lowest that the Hawkeyes would fall. I would be very surprised if, when it comes to Las Vegas's turn to pick, if Iowa was available, I'd be shocked if they did not take Iowa.
Yeah.
At that point.
And you're right. For once, for the first time in a while, it would be west instead of east. Nice climate. Of course, Vegas is Vegas. But yeah, December 23rd, that's an interesting date. So before Christmas, that's not usual for Hawkeye fans who go bowling or go traveling with the Hawkeyes in bowl season. So he is John Steppe with the Gazette.com. You see all of John's social media information at the bottom of the screen throughout this segment, along with most of my guests throughout the show. So, John, thanks as always, and happy birthday again.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
You're very welcome. For John Steppe, I'm Dave O'Hara with Hawkeye. We'll be back with more Sean Bock in just a few moments.
To have a strong finish, you need an excellent start. It's true on the track and also in the field. That's why Mershman Seeds works tirelessly to deliver cutting-edge technology year after year. Introducing Starting Line, Mershman Seeds' latest advancement in seed treatment, now providing added protection from white mold and sudden death syndrome all season. Ask for Starting Line seed treatment from Mershman Seeds, your friend in the field.
Welcome back to Hawkeye with me, Dave O'Hara. You see our buddy Sean Bock with CBS and 24/7 Sports. Sean, great job on recruiting. He's going to talk about a few football recruits, but we're going to talk Iowa Hawkeye men's basketball since my production partner Michael Merrick and I took a deep dive into Hawkeye women's athletics last week. So we're going to talk a little bit, or I'm going to mention to you, Brands boys had a great start as we record this on Monday afternoon, November 20th. They had a great start yesterday at Carver Hawkeye Arena, and my goodness, they rocked and rolled. Number 3 in the country and beat Oregon State handily. So we'll talk more as the season goes on, Hawkeye men's wrestling and Hawkeye women's wrestling as well. But today, going to talk some men's basketball with Sean Bock. And Sean, as always, thanks for joining us. Great seeing you.
Dave, thank you for having me.
My pleasure as always. So let you and I talk some recruiting. You were at the state football championships last week at the Dome, at the Unidome. There's still some pretty good talent in the state of Iowa coming to the Iowa Hawkeyes. Let's talk about 3 of the guys in Reese and also from Weiskopf and Williamsburg. Finally got their championship. Yep. And then also you've got Cam Buffington, 8-man football player, even though they didn't make the championship. Reese's team, nor did Buffington, but my goodness, all I've heard from these 3 guys, and especially from you, these are going to be some superlative future Hawkeyes potentially.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of felt like forever that I've been covering these kids because they committed to Iowa during their sophomore year of high school, and they were 3 of the first 4 commits in the 2024 class. And yeah, it's kind of fun. It's kind of weird to see that they're done with their high school careers now. But yeah, Derek Weiskopf from Williamsburg was the only one to win the state crown. But I mean, Cam Buffington, Winfield Mountain Union, I think they would have had a really good chance to win that state championship in 8-man had Buffington not gotten injured in the third quarter of that game. And Preston Reese, man, I mean, the type of season that he had Cooper DeJean type high school numbers. And I'm not going to say he's going to be Cooper DeJean because Cooper DeJean, as we all know, potential first-round pick. But Reese, that production, that speaks for itself right there. And Iowa likes all 3 of these linebacker commits they're pretty high on all of them. Buffington ran a 4.5 40-yard dash this summer at Iowa's camp at 6'2", 6'3", 223 pounds. Weiskopf is an All-American playing in the All-American Bowl, and Preston Reese is, if you ever get the chance to watch him play basketball, that just kind of goes to show what kind of athlete he is too. So in basketball, all 3 of those guys are basketball guys. So Weiskopf and Reese have had some battles too in the sub-state games, and watching those 2, rise up and put down dunks. I mean, Reese was dunking when he was in 8th grade. So, and he's 6'2", 6'1" maybe. So You're getting some pretty good athletes combining with the linebacker room that they already have in Iowa City. So the future's bright there for sure.
So, Sean, let's you and I talk some Iowa Hawkeye basketball. Been some interesting developments. You and I talked off the air, let's bring it on the air, about that tough loss last week to Creighton. And I'm not into moral victories or, they came close. They had that game coming down the stretch. They got a little bit too far down, though. And it looks like they ran out of gas a little bit coming down the stretch. But these young freshmen, the four in particular, guys you have talked to me about for a couple of years. You talk about coverage, folks. He's been talking to me about Dembele, Harding, Freeman, and Josh Dix is a sophomore. But Price Sanford. Now, Price has not got his shot the way he's had in the past. He's going to start warming it up. His brother Peyton went into a cold spell, but Peyton was lighting it up there for a while. Yeah. And I'm leaving off a name, which has been Krikke, because Freeman was named Big Ten Freshman of the Week last week. Krikke, Offensive Player or Big Ten Player of the Week. This guy's done nothing but leave Valpo and transfer here in the portal for a fifth year. My goodness, Sean, that guy can score, the big old lefty.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely been a welcomed addition. As I said, I probably have said on your show before that Ben Krikke was number one on the board for the Iowa staff going in the transfer portal this offseason. Obviously, they would have loved to grab Grant Nelson from Alabama or from North Dakota State, who went to Alabama. Mm-hmm. Didn't work out there, but Kirky's been a really nice addition. I mean, he can do a lot of things with the basketball. He's very mobile. I think one of the things with Philip Abracha is, yes, hard worker, can't replace that. But he was pretty limited when it came to, offensive skills. Yes, he can work back to the basket sometimes. Yeah. Krikke can do that too, but he can also play face-up. You can also play him in dribble handoffs, play him on the perimeter. He can get downhill a little bit too with a dribble. A lot of really good things that you can do with him. Obviously, that mid-range performance that he had against Creighton was unreal.
Yeah.
But if you're playing a team against Creighton, it's going to be kind of hard to win games when you're trading twos for threes.
Yeah.
And as we saw last year with this Iowa team, they went through lapses in that game. They had, they were hot to start, hitting shots to start the game. Mm-hmm. Creighton wasn't really hitting shots in the first half, but you kind of felt at some point that the Blue Jays were going to get hot, and, that's how Iowa had to counter, and they weren't able to counter. I mean, Krikke hit a couple nice shots at the start of the second half, but, there was like a period, I think, from like the 16-minute mark to maybe the 10-minute mark where Iowa really just couldn't get much going on offense, or at least get something consistent. And that's when Creighton really struck.
Yeah.
So, offensive lapses, I mean, you can put up points. I thought the defense looked better at times against Creighton, mainly in the first half. In the second half, it was a little shaky. Because Creighton, I mean, they're a wagon.
Yeah.
They're a wagon. They move the basketball. They get you out of your rotations, get you out of position, force you to scramble. If you're closing out too hard, they'll pass it off. They'll get shot fakes.
And they've got a 7-footer in Kalkbrenner who can go inside, outside.
Right.
Tough team. That's why they were ranked in the top 10 and 8th when Iowa faced them. But to your point with Krikke, I don't know what it is. You and I talked about this last time you were on the show. With a lefty, it just always seems smoother. Yeah. I mean, he has got one of the nicest shots, but he really, I love the authority he takes it to the rim. Has that nice spin move where he'll kind of get you on your back and turn you each way. DeSante Bowen has shown that he really likes to take it to the hoop, where Harding has said, okay, even though it's now become famous that Brock is going to stay after games and shoot, especially at Carver Hawkeye Arena. But I'll tell you this, he looks to want to distribute more. But Owen Freeman, as you advertise, and good to see Josh Dix get back in and contributing back to his offensive game and kind of finding his niche and role. And that's really what this is about, Sean, because it looks like Fran's going to go with 10 guys and young guys. But you have been talking to me about Owen Freeman for the past couple of years. And this young freshman, you want to see a guy develop. But he and Dembele's physicality, and Dembele's three, you told me he could stroke it or shoot it from three like that. But I didn't think he could shoot like that. And he and Owen Freeman are coming in road ready as freshmen. You don't see that often, especially in Big Ten basketball, Sean.
Yeah, I mean, I was especially impressed with Dembele too, because all preseason the talk has been his physicality, rebounding ability, just how strong he is inside. And I think people kind of forgot to talk about that shooting stroke that he has potential to have and has shown early in the season. Owen Freeman's really been a nice, he's really come on strong. All kind of offseason I heard about Brock Harding, how well he's played, and you can kind of see the flashes. Obviously, his size is going to be a little bit of a detriment throughout his career in Iowa. But Owen Freeman, man, he is so skilled. The ability to get on the perimeter, get deflections, make something happen in the fast break, run the floor. He's still kind of molding a little bit, still got to get a little stronger. But, I thought, truthfully, he'd probably be in that maybe third spot in the, coming off the bench, or third spot in the front court rotation behind maybe Ben Krikke, Patrick McCaffrey, Peyton Sanford, Evan Bronze. But Freeman's really put himself right up there.
He has.
At that 4 spot, that 4 or 5 spot. And you can play Krikke and Freeman together, which I think Iowa could do later on in the year depending on the matchup. But there is a lot to like about this freshman group.
You hit that perfectly. And to Sean's point, he kind of undersold himself a little bit. I'll give him his props. He's too humble. But check that out in the bottom of the screen as you see throughout this segment, and also with John Steppe and Scott Pritchard as well. That's why we put all their information at the bottom of the screen throughout the segment, because Sean has wrote some great pieces on football. When I say he undersold himself, basketball, football, he's written some great pieces throughout both seasons and leading into this basketball season. Iowa State hasn't played really anybody yet, but they look like they're going to be tough. TJ Otzelberger's guys are coming out already loaded for bear right now. That could be a tougher game than we first thought, too, at the Hawks and Cyclones in a couple of weeks. We'll get into that more as we go. But and again, like I said, with yourself and John Steppe, both of you write on multiple sports, great columns throughout. So be sure to check out Sean's information at the bottom of the screen and his fine handiwork there. Sean, my friend, as always, you got us covered wall to wall. Great stuff from you as always.
Thank you, Dave.
You're very welcome. Thank you, and happy Thanksgiving to you.
You as well.
Thank you. And to you, the viewers. Again, we're recording this a little earlier, so happy Thanksgiving. But again, Sean Bock was CBS Sports and 24/7 Sports recruiting expert, but also goes deep dive into the Iowa Hawkeye men's team and great coverage there. So for Sean Bock, I'm Dave O'Hara. We'll be back with more to close out the show on Hawkeye with our buddy Scott Pritchard, Scotty P, sports betting expert in Vegas. We'll be back with more Hawkeye in just a few moments.
Who do you trust to produce the best yield? A seed company that's chasing technology, or a seed company that's writing a book on it? Mershman Seeds is a leader in technology. We're independent and family owned. Our sister company, MS Technologies, provides access to world-class traits and genetics. And our starting line seed treatment is second to none. Who can you trust with your yields? Mershman Seeds, your friend in the field.
Welcome back to Hawkeye with me, Dave O'Hara. There's our buddy Scott Pritchard. Scotty P, Northeast Iowa native, sports betting expert in Vegas, 30-plus years. And I say it every week, and I'm going to say it again, crushing it. Most recently, and I'm going to give you the free picks number. Of course, his paid picks even better at pritchardspicks.com. 82 and 52. Oh, it's 134. You divide 82 by 134, Scotty P. That's almost 62%. I'm going to quote you. I was going to say that's unheard of, unbelievable, but are you kidding me? As you would say in your Dick Vitale voice. Scott, that's unreal, and your paid picks is even better at almost 66%. So first of all, are you still in first place in the world's biggest and best sportsbook circa? You're part of that 16 of the world's best invitational bettors, and you were in first place last week. I'm presuming that you're still in first place. Also, keep us updated on the Golden Nugget and some of the other contests you're in. So let's start with the circa first. How you doing there, my friend?
So competitive. 16 of the world's best going head-to-head for the prestigious green jacket and $25,000 in cash, and more importantly, bragging rights from a credibility standpoint moving forward. You've got some rock star people, Chris Felica from ESPN, Doug Kazarian, sports betting analyst for ESPN, Chris Piper, who won the Circa Survivor for $6 million, hung out with him all day yesterday at the Westgate Sportsbook, talking shop, swapping war stories, if you will. Kelly Stewart, she's an icon in the business, the only female in the 16-field bracket. Kenny White, an icon in Vegas for the past 4 decades. As we speak, so close, so tight. I'm still in first place. Boom, shakalaka. I'll take it. Golden Nugget contest, 154 contestants, $1,000 entry fee. I want to thank everyone for donating $1,000 each, because right now I'm a game and a half back of first place versus the number college and pro football in that contest. And again, first place should pay about $62,000.
Not bad work if you can find it. I love the little smack talk, too. Yes, of course, for those of you who don't know, Kelly in Vegas, as you mentioned, she's a Midwest gal at heart, a K-Stater, and then went out west. And you mentioned Krista Bear-Felica, formerly of ESPN, now with Fox Sports. Doug Kazarian, you mentioned your buddy Kenny White. Stanford Steve from ESPN. You've got a lot of luminaries in that circa contest, so I love it. I love it. As you now said, boom shakalaka. Is that a direct quote? I can use that then. I guess that's cleaner than saying yippee-ki-yay and whatever follows after that, but congrats on that. So, Scott, I have this question that has been emailed to me multiple times for you. We do our weekly question and answer segment with you. It's also a question of mine, so I won't tag anybody on this because there are about 20 people that have emailed me this question throughout the state of Iowa. Of course, we go statewide on 4 Sinclair-owned and operated stations. Here's the question or the feedback. Viewers want to know what your choice is because this is an interesting dilemma. For those of you uninitiated, there's going to be a little education here as always with Scott. This week is definitely germane. This past week, what happened against Illinois, the blocked extra point. If the Hawks make that extra point, depending on what sports book you bet or what your final betting line was, the over-under moved from like 28.5 up to 31.5, again, depending on your sports book, against Illinois and Iowa. So they weren't going to go over regardless. That was a 15-13 game. But if the Hawks make the extra point and you got that line at 28.5, there you go if you bet over. Scott, it ended up being Illinois, again, depending what line bettors took. Illinois got 2.5. So the Hawks got their extra point blocked by Illinois at the end of the game. They win by 2. So here's the question, the observation from all the viewers. How do you know when to jump on? You know, if you want to bet over, I guess you would try to take the over when it's, again, very much like you said with the stock market. When do you jump on? When do you jump off? When that line comes out, do you wait for public money to move that line, whichever direction? Or once it moves, you're like, oh no, it's worse than what I wanted. Talk to us about that sports betting dilemma.
First of all, Joe Public is never moving the number. It's the wise guys, it's the sharps like myself that are moving that number. A couple of exceptions. When you have a high-profile game, a la like the Super Bowl, you have Joe Public because the whole world, it's like New Year's Eve. Every amateur drinker goes out and gets hammered on New Year's Eve. Same thing is applicable when it comes to the Super Bowl. Every Tom, Dick, and Harry will bet the game, and oftentimes because the masses outnumber and will outbet the sharps, who a lot of times won't even bet the Super Bowl outside of the 250 prop bet options. But back on point, you want to be on the move early or against it late. So the idea is there was a lot of movement. I actually was on both bets, the side and the total, for the first time in a long time with the Iowa game. And I went 1-1, so I was a loser because I lost the juice. But this was the one time I felt there would be more points than what there ultimately was. So, but I also, being a numbers guy, value guy, I never bet teams. I only bet numbers and I bet value. But I do want to say a couple of things. One, that line closed as high, the total at 33.5. And I had a great bet because I bet over Red Rover. I bet over 30. So I had a great bet. I beat the index. I beat the closing number by 3.5 points, which is solid. The good news is winner, winner, steak and lobster dinner. See the cashier. I had Illinois plus the 3-0 hook. One of my favorite bands, Dr. Hook, sharing the night together. Sylvia's mother. You know the rest of the story. But yeah, so I went 1-1. But the idea professionally, Dave, is to be on the move early or against it late. It's good to know. And again, Joe Public never comes into play ever. The sports books do not care about Joe Public. They care about sharps, wise guys, advantage players, unfair advantage players like myself. Those are those are the opinions that the sports books ultimately respect.
My friend, congratulations on all your success. Keep crushing it at the Circa contest, the world's largest and best casino and sports book, where you are number one in their contest still. So keep crushing that. Your numbers 60% plus, 61% plus now in your free picks, your paid picks. Sign up, folks, at pritchardspicks.com. You're at almost 66% there. My friend, it's always great seeing you. Continued success to you, and we'll look forward to talking to you next week. And happy early Thanksgiving to you.
Happy Thanksgiving to you and Michael, the director, everyone there. Love the show. Love you. Keep up the good work, my man.
I will if you will, and likewise to you. Thanks, Scotty P. So for Scott Pritchard, our sports betting expert in Vegas, Northeast Iowa native, pritchardspicks.com. Thanks to him, also to Sean Bock from CBS and 24/7 Sports, also to John Steppe and my aforementioned production partner, Michael Merrick, and to you, the viewers. Happy Thanksgiving, and that's all from us at Hawkeye. Thanks to all of you. And as always, thanks for staying tuned at the end of the program for these rolling credits to give our advertisers and sponsors the attention and credit they so richly deserve. And as always, to our aforementioned guests and to you, the viewers. That's all from us at Hawkeye. Thanks to all of you.